What's up, guys? My name is John, and welcome to my NEStalgiaholic show. This episode, I'm going to show you a closer look at Nintendo Power Volume 30. This came out in November 1991. This is during the time where Super Nintendo had just recently hit the market. It looks like the cover is going to feature Final Fantasy II for the Super Nintendo, one of my favorite Final Fantasy games of all time. I actually like it a little better than 7, to be quite honest with you. Also, Battletoads for the Game Boy, among Flintstones for the NES, among other things. So this is really where Nintendo was in full stride with all three systems, the Nintendo, the Game Boy, and Super Nintendo that just recently hit the market, as I mentioned before. I've done reviews over the previous 29 volumes. If you guys are curious, check those out. I encourage you guys to check out the playlist. You guys can see those as well. So without any further ado, let's take a closer look at Nintendo Power Volume 30. So here's a closer look at the cover, Final Fantasy II. Obviously, is the main feature. Final Fantasy II in Japan for the Super Famicom was, or is, Final Fantasy IV. It's kind of confusing. The Final Fantasy 2 and 3 for the Famicom never made it to the NES, unfortunately. Also on the back here, this is your triple play power. You can basically, talks about the different bundles you can get, the Game Boy, the Super Nintendo, and the action set. This is when Nintendo was at full swing with all three systems, as I mentioned before. Open this up. This came out during the holidays, so of course they have some holiday promotions. Star Tropics. I reviewed that issue several episodes ago. Also, this is kind of you can actually order and subscribe to Nintendo Power. To give you an idea, 1 year subscription, it was $15 for 12 issues. 24 issues is $30. A normal single issue is $3.50 at the time. So here is the table of contents. These are main features. This is the Super Nintendo Showcase, tips from the pros, video updates, Game Boy features, players forums, and the info zone. This is a player's pulse where people can actually write in and submit different articles and stories of what's going on. Contest winner, they always ran contests, so you can win various things. This is Flintstones Rescue of Dino and Hoppy. This is the more common of the two. The other one being more uncommon than the other Flintstones because it came out later in the life of the NES, and that's a harder game to find. I can't remember what that game is called, to be honest with you. Leave a comment below, let me know, remind me. God Love the Flintstones was the longest running cartoon of all time up until The Simpsons passed it by. They're coming out with actually a new Flintstones series. I believe it's actually going to be developed by McFarlane, the guy who actually does Family Guy, which is kind of cool. All right, so this is Nestor's Adventures. And this is, so they got rid of Howard at this point. Before it was Howard and Nestor, now it's just Nestor. And these are just mini comics that were featured in Nintendo Power at the time. 1 or 2 pages, they're not very long. This is a 2-page thing. And usually kind of talks about kind of tips of Nintendo games. Howard Phillips was one of the creators of Howard and Nestor, or Howard was based on him, and he left at this point, so they kind of dropped him. Now it's Nestor. There's only one game I'm aware of that Nestor is actually featured in. That was Nestor's Funky Bowling for the Virtual Boy. Classified information, these are just tips from classic Super Nintendo games, including Super Mario World, Philip 1-Ups. You have also Tricky Toss, this is Magic Darts, Rockin' Cats for the NES, Pilot Wings for the Super Nintendo, Final Fight Super Nintendo Extra Fighters Plus, Gradius for Konami Code, how that works on the NES. Final Fantasy II pictures here, the first epic adventure for the Super Nintendo. So this came out very earlier, released for the Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo carts were shaped a little bit differently. If you look at a normal Super Nintendo cart, the most common one is, you'll see on the front, there's kind of the groove, where the earlier releases, they actually kind of fill that in, which is interesting. But this is one of my favorite games, favorite role-playing games on the system. The music really blew me away. The Mode 7 graphics on how you could fly and move around with your spaceship. Not really spaceship, but skyship. It was really cool. And talk about the different characters, Prince Edward and all that good stuff. Yang. Really, really cool. Sid. I think Sid was in most Final Fantasy games. Character anyway, the name. So really a nice full coverage of that. This is the Counselor's Corner, where these are the most common people call. You can call a number, 1-800 number, and ask for questions. These are what people would actually call-in most common ones. This is before pre-internet. It was really big, and so people kind of rely on calling people for help rather than looking up on YouTube or on the internet to Google. But yeah, Super Mario World, some different tips for that. Battletoads. These are the different guys. They usually have mullets. This guy in that case does. Some more games. Destiny of the Emperor, Legend of Zelda, Metal Gear, Simpsons, Bart vs. the Space Mutants. Really, really hard game. Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego? I remember picking this up because, yeah, it came with a desk encyclopedia. Kind of a very challenging game. You remember the show, the game show, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? You guys remember that? Ultimate Air Combat for the NES. Tom and Jerry. And Tuffy for the NES. Also did a rating scale here. So in this case, I think was a scale to 1 to 5. Graphics and sounds got 3.7. Play controls 3. Challenge entertainment is 3. And theme and fun is 3.4 for this particular game. By High Tech Expressions was the publisher and developer of this game. They had a poster in every Nintendo Power. This particular poster is Baseball 2000. We're playing that on the Game Boy. In fact, growing up in Seattle, I remember the Science Center had a Game Boy exhibit, and they would actually feature baseball where you could actually link it up, link cables, and play multiplayer. These are the special feature Game Boy section. These were kind of before they actually had the actual labels for the games. You can see here. At this point, Game Boy had only been out for a couple years. Battletoads, which is a port from the NES by Rare. A really hard game to play, to beat them up. Be cool if they had new Battletoads. Look at that level design, it's crazy. Kid Icarus, I always wondered how they screen capped shots here. They must have had some special thing to do that. This is Kid Icarus. This is actually a sequel to the one for the NES. And it's actually a pretty fun game. It's not the same game as the NES one. This is Baseball 2000. This is kind of a first person, one of the very early first person perspective games. Not really, I guess technically it is a shooter, so, but very, very cool, very fun game. Really fun to play multiplayer in these mazes and stuff. Have a contest, questions, winner, what can you win? Everyone can be a winner. You can send something in, I guess you want to maybe a copy of the game. Double Dragon 2 for the Game Boy. Word High, I think that's how you pronounce it. Interesting. These are more tips for Game Boy games, very similar to the ones I showed you earlier for the NES. Hunt for Red October, Operation C, which is a great Konami game. I think it was actually published by Ultra, which is by Konami, and it was a Contra style game. It's part of the Contra series. If you like Contra, check out Operation C. I'm now playing Game Boy Top 10, Super Mario Land, Fall of the Foot Clan, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, number 2, Dr. Mario 3, Final Fantasy Legend is 4, which is, I believe, part of the Mana series, Secrets of Mana. Not really part of the Final Fantasy, but although they title it here in the States anyway, Final Fantasy. F1 Race was cool because it came with like a multi-tap. You can play up to 4 players on that. That was cool. WWF Superstars, rather. Castlevania, The Adventure. Batman, Alleyway, and Baseball. Coming soon. Back from the Sewers, the sequel to Turtles. Ninja Gaiden, or Gaiden, however you want to pronounce it. Terminator 2. Hudson Hawk. Super Nintendo, so this is a feature. This is Super Tennis, obviously a very early release for it. Actually a pretty fun game, good title to pick up. Different characters, you can play singles or doubles. US Squadron, cool tactical shooter. Different weapons you can pick up. Baseball Simulator 2000. So many baseball games for the NES, there's quite a few for the Super Nintendo, but not quite as many. Different ultra pitching, ultra batting. This is players poll contest, so you can grand prize, attend an NBA All-Star game, see NBA's finals complete in the slam dunk contest. You can compete in the slam dunk contest. It's in Orlando, 1992, February. You can also win gear from EA Sports. Look at the logo for EA Sports, old school. Love those caps. Now playing Space Shuttle for the NES, Snow Brothers, Toki for the NES, Darius Twins, Ultraman, And Super Nintendo releases, these are Chess Master, Darius Twins, Final Fantasy II, Hyperzone, upcoming games for it. Nintendo Achievers, you can actually submit your high score, and this is where you could actually do that. Blue was an NES. This is pink was NES as well. I'm not sure what the difference is, maybe just different columns. Top 30 games of November 1991. Number 1 is Mario 3, Final Fantasy, Battletoads. You can see NES just dominated Turtles, our arcade game, which is awesome. Simpsons, Bart versus Space Mutants, Crystalis. You can see NES just dominated up until Zelda, we'll see. Star Tropics, yeah. A lot of these are just NES games. Little Mermaid's actually an underrated game for sure. It's a pretty good game by Capcom. These are what the players pick. These are what the pros pick as far as games, their top games, their points. Celebrity profile, Robert Englund, and he's actually the guy who plays Freddy Krueger, and they just kind of interview him and ask him what games he plays and what's his the horror films, his favorite horror films. Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street is the series that he was in. Packwatch, Empire Strikes Back for NES, Overlord, these are games coming up. Super Nintendo games, Development Dispatch, Lemmings, True Golf, Gossip Galore, Super Sports from EA, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, Rumor Wrap Up. Back issues, you can order back issues coming up next month. Metroid 2, Tiny Toons Adventures, great game. Batman Return of the Joker, which is another great game. ActRaiser, and this is an old copy people submit. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for commenting. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.